So you can file this one under things you don't do for 1,000 Alex. My name is Charles Bianco. I am New York City and Long Island's premier real estate broker and home loan officer. I've been doing this for over 14 years with a ton of experience doing this full-time, full service for people just like you. And here I am spilling all of my information one video clip at a time. And in this video, I'm going to be going over with you the perils of purchasing a property without it having the proper permits. And please don't say that too many times fast. But with that being said, let me ask you a question. For those of you who have gone home shopping, and maybe there's been some difficulty finding the right home for you, but you find that one home and you say, wow, this is the home of my dreams. Put below, would you buy that at any cost? Would you overspend because it is the home of your dreams? Would you buy it because maybe some things are violations in the eyes of the county and maybe you can get around them? Would you wind up changing the terms, meaning you want to buy it, you buy it quicker than expected just because you love the property? Well, please post your comments below because I do respond to them and I do react to them and I would love to interact with you and answer your questions and your comments. So anyway, today we're going to talk about a couple things. Number one, the problem with homes that don't have proper permits on them. And number two, what happens when you buy a home that does not have proper permits on them. And with that being said, we have a family here that's based in San Francisco. And even though it is a San Francisco story, it absolutely does apply here in New York, just about the exact same, which is why I'm bringing this up. Well, this nice family you see here purchased a property 4 years ago, a property that they knew was a multifamily unit, meaning it was 4 separate apartments in one building. However, the previous owner had converted it into a single family, combining all 4 of those apartments into one huge apartment, creating what they thought was a dream opportunity in an area that didn't have homes like this. So their eyes widened and they put in an offer, and they did so at any expense possible, which is why I asked you in the very beginning. So one more time, my information's on screen. Let me tell you what else is on screen. You've got a ticker at the very bottom, and that's my personal calendar. If you'd like to schedule a 30-minute free, no obligation consultation over the phone with me, my times and days are available there. Simply choose one that best fits you, and let's get to talking. So anyway, without further ado, today's topic is what happens when you buy a home without proper permits on record in New York City or on Long Island. And this is quite literally a lesson learned in big money and big trouble with a family whom I'm going to share with you right now. This family right here, loving family, they are the unfortunate victims of something they kind of set themselves up for. So let's go ahead and read right away. And if you have a way to take notes with what I'm telling you here in this story, I highly suggest it. So pause this video to grab something. Okay, let's go. And it begins. The home on 526 Vallejo Street checked nearly every box for the longtime North Beach residents shown above in the picture. The roughly 3,700 square foot property featured an open kitchen flowing into a sunlit living area, a rooftop deck overlooking Chinatown and the financial district, and enough bedrooms for their 2 sons, visiting relatives, and home offices. Single-family houses are exceedingly rare in the historic neighborhood, making the purchase feel like a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. So right away, you have to ask yourself, is this too good to be true? Because if it's too good to be true, chances are it's not true. So right there, it literally says that a property like this is extremely rare. So when I represent my clients in purchasing a property, one of the first things I do is acknowledge the architecture of the building or the property they're interested in. By this means I go to the building department, I do my research, I run FOIL reports, and I'm more about that if you should reach out to me. I also check public records, although public records are not very accurate. So this is why I do both of the pre-mentioned things, building department and public records rather. I also confirm the taxes on the property, because taxes here in New York, Long Island, you're looking at $10,000 plus a year easily. So I confirm that for you, among other things I do for my clients as well. Now, if it's too good to be true, there's always a reason for that. And let's read on to see exactly what that is. It goes, but the dream unraveled after city inspectors arrived following an anonymous complaint. As Holloway recalled, the mood changed after planning officials toured the 4-floor property. They looked at us and were like, "You guys are screwed," Holloway told the Chronicle in an interview. According to city officials and tenant advocates, the building had been previously altered from a 4-unit apartment complex into a single-family residence without proper permits. That means the structure is still officially classified as a multi-unit property in municipal records and may have to be restored to that configuration. So basically what's happening here is that an anonymous person, be it an angry neighbor or whatever have you, a building code inspector car driving on by and saying, "Hey, that's not supposed to be." And now you got the building department involved and they go into the property and say, "Hey, this is not what we have on record. This is completely different. We don't have any permits for this change from a 4-apartment building into a 1-apartment building." So now you have a problem. Now, what does the problem mean? That problem can mean several things. Number one, big fines. Big fines, number one. Number two, violations on record. So the violations will mar the property. They will create issues for the property. They stain the property records. So if you decide to sell the property in the future, the title companies for the attorney is going to uncover these violations. And they're going to refuse to purchase that property, allow their clients to purchase that property until these violations have been cleared. And the bank will oftentimes stop the process because the bank is not in the business of taking on properties that have violations. So this is a big key point for these homeowners. These homeowners are in a bit of trouble here. And worst case scenario, if they can't get the building department to acknowledge the one family that it now is from the 4th family through whatever measures there may be, then they could be forced to return it back to its original structure, which may not be at all what the buyers or the now owners were looking for. So let's go back into the story. Let's read a little further. Tenant activists argue the issue is bigger than one household. In a city facing a severe housing shortage, they say losing residential units is unacceptable. And then this is a quote acknowledging that. Beneath it reads, Holloway and Ramirez acknowledge that, oh boy, this is a big one. Holloway and Ramirez acknowledged that they were aware the property was technically listed as a multi-unit building when they bought it, though its interior clearly resembled a single home. I mean, that's huge. Basically, what's being said here is that the buyer and their agent acknowledged that it is or was labeled as a multifamily home, even though the interior was adjusted, was changed, was remade to be a one-family home. So right there is a huge issue. Now, if I were their agent, I would have told them right there and then, I said, wait a minute, hang out here. Because if this is the case, we have to make sure the building department is on board with this being a 1-bedroom. Because if it is not a 1-bedroom, then remember, one family, then remember, you will be on the hook, potentially, very much so on the hook for this problem. And you want nothing to do with that problem because it's going to be your problem. See, one big misconception a lot of people have out there, especially people who aren't real estate agents or attorneys, just ordinary buyers and ordinary sellers, is that once the property changes hands, once a sale occurs, then it is no longer an issue, that whatever alterations were done are passed to the next person. And because the next person had nothing to do with those alterations, they are not responsible for them. Quite the contrary. What happens is the purchaser of the property inherits the problem. They purchase the property with the problem attached to it. So it becomes their problem, even though they had nothing to do with it, as this family is likely to learn. So let's go back here to this story and let's read on. We are the numbnuts who signed a 4-unit building, Holloway said. Numbnuts. They said numbnuts. Now it continues. Still, the couple say assurances from the real estate professionals and the previous owners left them believing the discrepancy would not pose a serious problem. We thought it was fine, she added. Turns out it's not fine. Ladies, gentlemen, people of all ages, let me make something very clear to you right now. You never, ever, ever take the word of a homeowner when there are violations and why those violations exist, or when there's adjustments or alterations and what they did to address them. You must go to the building department. You must get this checked out, and you must make sure you're buying a property that is as it is shown. Because if you do not, like I mentioned before, you inherit the problem. And that's exactly what this family has now realized. They've inherited the problem, and it's only going to get better from here. So let's go back to the story real quick, and let's continue. Over the past 4 years, the family has been pulled into a maze of permits, hearings, and appeals as they try to legalize the home's existing layout. They say they have spent thousands of dollars hiring architects, and navigating the city's planning bureaucracy while researching the building's renovation history. If their latest appeal fails, the consequences could be drastic. The couple may have to divide the residence into 4 separate apartments, potentially installing kitchens in the primary bedroom, a child's bedroom, and the downstairs guest room. The construction could cost millions and force the family to move out during the renovation process. So that right there, ladies and gentlemen, people of all ages, are the consequences. If you purchase a property that is in a condition that it is not meant to be, then you're inheriting the problem. And the problem then becomes spending thousands, and in this case, even millions of dollars, restoring it back to the original condition that you never wanted it in to begin with by force. Otherwise, you get violations, potential court orders, court appearances, attorney fees, fees from the county, the state, the city, whatever. It just piles up. So you might say, you know what? Forget it. I don't care. Just let them do whatever they want. They don't just do whatever they want. They just continue to charge you. And then eventually these liens get put against your property potentially. And now you're looking at huge problems that you never asked for. Ladies and gentlemen, people of all ages, let me be very clear with you for a second. Avoid all this just by contacting me. My information, let me put it on screen again for you. My information's on screen. This is a very serious matter. This is the reason why you need a qualified, quality real estate agent. And I've been one for over 14 years. All the experience you need. You don't have to worry about dealing with situations like you see with this poor family if they had the right real estate agent. There are plenty of real estate agents that come into this system here in New York that are part-timers, get-rich-quick schemers, watch reality real estate TV and they think to themselves, oh, this is great. I can do this. And please don't do that. Contact me. My information's on screen. My ticker there at the bottom. And before I go any further, there's something I'd like to share with you that's in relation to this. There is a free PDF guide that I offer, and it's one that's super important, especially if you're buying. And it is as follows: questions to ask when buying a home. It's a free guide. Go to my description. There's a link there for you. Click on it, and it will take you to my landing page. Just put in your name and email, and you will get an instant download to it, and it addresses all the different things that you need to look for when you go to buy a home. But until next time, thank you very much for being a watcher. I'm new here, so like and subscribe, and I look forward to seeing you again soon.